Today's video, we're going to talk about should I break my PMax products within my PMax campaign into different asset groups? Yes or no? You may be asking yourself right up the top, of course, Corey, we want to use different asset groups in our PMax campaign. What are you, crazy? I'm not crazy. I do not use multiple asset groups in my PMax campaigns that I'm running ever. And I do mean ever. There's a very good reason for that, which is in short here that you'll see as I explain this, because you're going to show up outside of google.com with your ad copy or your ads a much, much higher percentage of the time when you use multiple asset groups versus one asset group each time. And I will get into detail why that is and why you want to go with the alternative method that I'm using on all our PMax campaigns that we use for our clients' campaigns, in which we have to guarantee the results to do that. But before I get into the video here, if you do not know who I am yet, I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guarantee PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for our clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability up front on their campaigns. Basically offsetting the management fee. We are the only agency out there that does anything like this, which should tell you something about the quality of the information you're receiving on today's video. So with that said, getting into the content here. This is actually a pretty simple video here that I'm going to cover and matrix to go along with it. I got here on the left-hand side the pros and cons of using different asset groups. And then I've got on the right-hand side here the pros and cons of having one so-called default asset group within your PMax campaigns each time as well. So I will go through what each one of these are here. So basically, if you use multiple asset groups within each PMax campaign that you're trying to run, the main reason why people are going to do that, of course, is so that they can run different ad copy for each asset group. Google set up us to have different asset groups in PMax campaigns technically for two reasons. One of which, so we could change the targeting of the ad. Second of all, is to have different ad copy for different groups of products, of course. Or services, if you're talking about services, you could technically run PMax for services, you don't need a product feed. The reality is, PMax, as far as separating the asset groups out for different targeting methods, where you can add different signals, different demographics testing, targets, and so forth, ultimately, PMax is running a lot on just straight out machine learning. They're not really using too much your targeting settings in your campaign, at least when you're talking about shopping ads that you're trying to run through that PMax campaign. And with that said, Google's going to rely mainly on the text that's on the product pages and the text that is on the product feed itself to decide where your ads show. Of course, sometimes we'll add like male, female, restricting one of those, or income targeting, which we use all the time. There's no middle class in America anymore. We usually target top 10 or 20% of income demographic and over half of the markets in order to make money. But beyond that, we don't tinker with the targeting settings in there, adding audiences for Google to look at past customers or anything like that, because we can add the customers on the customer match part of Google Ads that will apply to the whole account as a whole. Of course, if you had different types of products, you could have different product customer lists and then take that product list that's for that certain product and then upload it to your PMax campaign. And that would actually be useful. We do that occasionally, but most of the time our clients are selling stuff that's in the same category, so we wouldn't need to do that. As far as targeting, it's pretty much on autopilot. And if we want to adjust the targeting, instead of using asset groups, we'll actually seed the product feed with additional keywords itself. And what that means is we'll take a supplemental product feed and add it to Google Merchant Center. And again, because we only run PMax campaign for running shopping campaigns and for selling products with the product feed, but we will add, like if we're selling pink socks, we'll add at the end of the product title, hot pink, light pink, so that our product will show up in more impressions, get more impressions for that product, and in places where it will actually matter. Why do we do that versus adding keywords to the asset group or at the asset group level? Because it will typically have more of the product into deciding where your ads show, more so than anything else. So if you're going to try to steer the shopping campaign for Google or help steer it, you want to do it by adding keywords at the title level, or the product title level. And the way that you do that is you have your product title, and then you have a product title, and then you have a space, a vertical bar, space, and then your keyword 1, and then you have a space, vertical bar, space, keyword 2. And that may look a little junky to the user if they hover over the shopping ad and see the additional keywords there. But for the most part, most people don't hover over the ad before they click on it, so they're not going to see it anyway. But there's always downsides to everything. The upsides are so great for having the additional keywords on there that it'll outweigh it. But with that said, different asset groups, Google gave us different asset groups using that PMax campaign to help steer the ads in terms of targeting, but also have different ad copy for different products. If you're going to have substantially different products that you're marketing or substantially different services, you'd be better off having a different campaign anyway, so that you can control the budget per product group or per service, because they probably are going to scale at different levels. They're going to have different propensities to get different levels return. And if you're going to scale your overall business off the backs of your Google Ads account, you would do it more effectively, being able to up the budget on each product level or product category level or service category level. If you're crazy enough to run PMax campaigns for services, which you absolutely shouldn't be doing that, because your ads are going to show up for all kinds of weird crap, weird searches, on stuff on the display network. But even when it does show up on Google search, it shows up for the wrong thing, competitor names, all this. Whereas if you ran a regular search campaign, you'd be able to see the search terms, add your negative keywords as necessary, and actually get your ads to physically show up in the right places they're supposed to. But with that said, so you can use different ad set groups to do different ad copy itself, but having the ad copy on there isn't necessarily a good thing to begin with. I talk about on this channel all the time how we use something called a no-feed PMax setup, which a lot of people have talked about this out there in the advertising space. And what that basically is you start up a PMax campaign, and there's no headlines, no descriptions in there. You other than a logo, that's all you're going to add, and the business name. And the reason for that is because if you add those other things in there, your ads are going to show up in other places but a shopping listing or in the shopping ad space on Google. Adding the headlines and descriptions to get your ads to also show up on Google search or for Google search placements, which you may say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, like I was just saying a minute ago, you're better off running search placements in a standalone search campaign because you have more controls in getting it set up right than with a PMax campaign, which is basically it's free reign. And the same thing goes if you were trying to run display ads, PMax campaign, you'd be much better off running a standalone display campaign or a standalone demand gen campaign or a standalone YouTube campaign, because each one of those standalone campaigns have lots of levers for you to pull so to get your ads to actually show up exactly where they're supposed to show. And running display ads, that is non-search engine ads, is hard enough as is when you have a standalone campaign, to where a PMax, running it through PMax, you just completely forget it that you're ever going to make money. Google set up PMax to get people to give them their money easier than it would otherwise. They want you to think that you could spend 5 minutes setting up your campaign and account, and you're going to be freaking rich already. And if you sell something with super high demand and low competition or no competition, that you'll make money. Occasionally I see people making money with PMax, even running it for services. One guy of which did it for a motorized shade business. Well, he's the only main guy in the whole area that does it, so it works. If you got any kind of competition at all, it's not going to work, especially since your competition's not going to be wasting all their ad spend on placements that don't work, and you're going head to head against them, where they could now pay more for a click because they're only paying for the clicks that matter. But not only that, it's just very easy to have your ad show up in the wrong places, and then that tips your campaign from profitable to non-profitable. It's not like you could be massively off and it's okay. That's the reality because the clicks are expensive. So, but with that said, if you use more ad copy, if you use different ad groups to have different ad copy for different products, like most people are using different asset groups for, they usually don't use different asset groups for different targeting methods, even though you could. You're going to show up in all these other places you don't want to show up. More irrelevant searches, show up on the display network, which is the big killer, on YouTube, on Gmail, and so forth, which those are great placements, but you set it up as standalone campaigns so they run properly. If you use different asset groups for different targeting purposes. Different asset groups could be, that is a case to use different asset groups. But in each asset group, I would have the no feed set up where you have no headlines, no descriptions, and all of it, if you will. But for the most part, like I said, you're better off modifying the product feed than you are changing adding signals to each asset group. Even though the one situation where it would make sense is where you have different asset groups to where you could have an asset group product category A, and then one asset group for product category B, and then you have the past customers you've ever had on a customer list added to asset group A that has just the customers from product A added, and the same thing for category B for customers who in the past have bought from category B, so that the machine learning can look at the customer list that applies to that category of products and be a lot more accurate in figuring out where your ad should run next, because it's looking at all the traits of the past customers for that exact product category, if you will. Sometimes you'll have a situation where product category A can be sold to poor people, and then product category B can be sold to rich people, or ideally it's sold to rich people, or rich people mainly buy it. And then you could have your different income targeting for each asset group in that case. Generally speaking though, if your two product categories that are that different, again, you're better off putting the two different product categories and two different campaigns, so you can have different ROAS targets for each, because they probably have different margins to go along with it. And you can actually decide, do I want to increase, because when you're running Google Ads and you're scaling your account, all the time you're saying, okay, I'm ready to scale another 15% my investment on Google Ads. Where should it be? Do you really want to only just be able to say, okay, there's one way to increase it or one place to increase it? Or do you want to say, let's look at the 5 different product categories we have and different campaigns for each, and let's decide, should we increase it here or some here and then some here and then some here? You'll be able to scale so much easier that way, because generally speaking, you'll find one category scales easily, one doesn't, and you want to put all your chips on the campaign that promotes the products that are most successful at the time. And then eventually maybe you'll come back and do the one that doesn't scale so easily later on, once the primary campaign you have is starting to get capped and so forth. Now, if you have one default asset group that in your PMax campaign, you can, like I just mentioned, you can do other campaigns to better control your budget and to help scale better without the downside of ultimately having to use different asset groups and stuffing them full of headlines and descriptions and showing all over the place. But even then, on top of that, I would say that if you, by the way, wanted to run 2 different asset groups, one that targets male, one that targets female, like to do some weird testing thing, I would recommend just not doing that, because the algorithm's so smart, it's going to be able to weed out the people that don't buy fairly well and do it, or any kind of weird crap like that. The main scenario is, like I said, if you can add different customer lists to each asset group for the different product categories, that might be helpful. But again, different campaigns is generally what I'm going to do anyway for that. And then if you have your feed only set up, no headlines, no descriptions, and you have one asset group, you're not going to show up in all the other weird places like I mentioned before. If you're not sure what to do, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, or just reach out to me at my firm. I can have a conversation with you about the topic at hand and give you some other ideas to scale your ads more than they are already without having to roll up your sleeves and do it. Like I mentioned, we offer all our new clients a performance guarantee at the beginning, which we're not getting paid unless you're making more as a result. And so there's no reason not to hire us because of that, because we either pay ourselves out of what we make or you don't pay anything. Not everybody applies. We don't take on just any client, but well, at least we can have a conversation about what we can get you and tell you that up front. So anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know. Also, we've been selling ad templates. No other agency's doing this, which I don't know why, but we've worked in over 100 different niche markets in the last 10 plus years of running this advertising firm here at Guaranteed PPC. And if we've worked in a niche and you are in that niche, we can sell you the winning ads, landing page, campaign template, all of it that works for your niche. And as long as you're not in the same geographic area as our client or past client, you can use it there. And you just completely bypass all the stuff that you had to do to figure out what we had to figure out to get to the results we're already getting in your niche market already, of which we can tell you the results you're going to get with it up front because we're already getting those results in a niche market in a different geographic area, a different city, or even different country. We've got people using these templates to start whole their businesses from scratch. They're literally taking our template, like the sell printer toner, start selling it in country B, our clients in country A, and have a turnkey business almost. We've got people using the templates to start lead generation businesses where they're getting personal injury leads and then they're selling them to personal injury lawyers or whatever. So because these templates are so polished. If you're interested in that, you can also let me know. Reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. I can tell you the results you would get with it up front because we've already done work in that market. And at least you just find out what you stand to gain using our template, if anything. With that said, okay, this information that I gave you here, you would only know this after you've tested many, many campaigns. It does not make any sense to randomly test stuff in your Google Ads account if you want more results out of Google Ads. Same thing applies if you're running Facebook ads, Bing ads, whatever. All the information you need to know how to scale your account is on this channel. I've made hundreds of videos talking about all the techniques we are using to guarantee results for our clients, and it's all here for free for you to use. And it comes from somebody who's actually doing the strategy on every account that we manage here at our agency, which there's 50 different accounts that we're managing at any given time. I do the strategy for all of them. And I can tell you what works and what doesn't work because I'm spending my 40 hours a week just doing that. Most of the yahoos that you're going to find on YouTube, online, talking about how to make money with ads, become a millionaire running ads for your business, are actually people who don't run ads. Or they run a couple ads, they don't know what they're doing. So you shouldn't, even though there's all this fancy editing and it looks polished what they're producing, it's all just smoke and mirrors. They're not actually in the trenches doing the work. They run an agency but they don't do the work themselves. So they don't know anything. They don't have firsthand knowledge. And it's changing so fast. Unless you're on it doing it, you really don't know what's going on at any given point. So you should subscribe to this channel already if you haven't because of that. If you're serious about becoming a millionaire or a multi-millionaire running ads for your business, you're not going to find better information elsewhere. Trust me on that. Furthermore, you can also check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has information. It's written by me again, and it has all the information about how to use these strategies we're using to guarantee results for our clients laid out there with screenshots, with everything you need to use them. So if you like what you see on this channel and you've learned a lot, definitely check that out as well. You'll probably like what you see there as well. Most people do. A lot of people like it even better than the channel. With that said, I want to say that if you are really, once you get locked into a certain campaign structure, it's, at least when you're talking about PMax, it's hard to back out of it later because promoting a PMax campaign is like filling up a piggy bank one coin at a time. The more you spend on the PMax, the more effective it is. And when you get years into running a campaign already, it's hard to pivot and do another campaign structure because you're going to be losing so much data on the old campaign that you're pretty much married to it at that point in time. So it would be very advantageous to you to reach out to myself on a 30-minute coaching call, talk about the structure you potentially want to do so that you have the best structure for your account long-term because that can make a big impact on your long-term results. Or if you're thinking about making a change, asking me before so that because when you make a change, you're always going to get some negative volatility in your results because of how the machine learning works and changes over a certain size, send the campaigns back into learning mode for a few weeks. Ask me first. I have quite a few people using my coaching that I just started doing and offering to our channel viewers here, just asking me, hey, I'm about ready to make this change. Is this a good idea or not? Even other agency owners. And I tell them before they make the mistake of doing it the wrong way, or I say, yeah, I bless it. Hey, that's the right way to do it. And they avoid all the going backwards before they have to go forwards for no reason. You got to make changes to get results, but you don't have to make random changes that you don't know if will work to see if it will work. So anyway, every person who's been reaching out and getting my 30-minute coaching sessions I've been doing has come back for more coaching. If you're interested in that, let me know. I can tell you at the very least, if you're stuck in where you're at and you can't grow your revenue and profit anymore, I can review your entire website, your pricing strategy, your packaging, and like basically where the bottleneck is. A lot of you guys, I started doing this because a lot of you guys, it's not the ads that are the issue. It's one of the supporting elements that go along with your ads to get it to work. Maybe it's your tracking. I go over all that and I can let you where the bottleneck is. So, and if it is the ads, I'll tell you what you can do. But with that said, I think I'm going to wrap it up with that. Hopefully this was useful for you and it put you on the right track with what you were going to do with your PMax structure and your campaigns. And with that said, I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said PMax campaign was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.